Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of This Is Your Reselling Life. Tonight, we have an awesome guest all the way from the UK, the man himself, Adz. So without any further ado, we'll bring him up and talk about his reselling journey.
Hello there. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good, mate. Thanks heaps for coming along tonight. Really appreciate your time. Well, it's morning your time, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. You wouldn't think it because of the blind clothes.
No, I really appreciate you coming on. I've had a lot of people messaging me and saying they're looking forward to hearing more about ads. So I guess the reason we have you here is to talk about where it all began for you. We're talking just before we went live, and you mentioned that you've sort of been in a little bit over 4 years now. So where did it all start for you?
It started it was kind of over a summer in university. I've gone into this many times on my channel, so I won't kind of digress too much. But I essentially had my first panic attack with anxiety. And that was over the summertime. And I tried going back to university, and every time we'd go in for week upon week upon week, I'd have panic attack after panic attack after panic attack. So I found Nick over that summer. And although I was still going into uni after the summer, I was reselling. I was starting to get the bug for it. Yeah. And I ended up getting so bad with my anxiety, it just took me down. It really did. That I just couldn't go into university anymore. I could not stomach it. And so what I did was I actually withdrew from university and started doing reselling. And then I got better and better with my anxiety through doing reselling. Wow. And I knew that reselling was what I wanted to do. I knew that university, doing a business management degree at university, and I did enjoy it. I liked it, but I really always felt I wanted to get out in the field practically. I wanted to do something practically in business, and I knew that reselling was that. And when I really started going for it, I just put everything into it. I just knew I wanted to do it. And essentially I'd go around the charity shops, and then I started to do car boots. In the September of the same year, a few months later after I'd started, I started YouTube. And from then on, my psychological health has got better with my anxiety from it. I've met loads of new people from it through the internet. And I've managed to grow a business, grow a business that's healthy and sustainable. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of where it started.
That's pretty incredible that you're able to sort of find something that worked for you and gave you that confidence back that you were sort of lacking when you're at uni. It's a great thing to have behind you, and like you said, it just shows you something different to what the world wants to show you, I suppose. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Before we get too much further into your story, we will say hello to everyone in the chat. So thanks everyone for coming along tonight. Liz was first in. Ken Skeets is in as well. Tommy Bernhard, g'day mate, thanks for coming. Just me, Tommy again. Zach's in from We Flipping Good Stuff. Darren Carter, Andrew from Money Mental UK, thanks for coming across. Just saying he's dropping in. Just me, Jasmine Bambury, sorry. Captain Opshop Nerd, Sinister, Look Mum Hustling, which is Drew and Sarah. Robin, the chat's getting away from us. Sinister, Kumbi Buckaroo, Thrift Beast CQ, and Sam's Second Life Sales. So thanks everyone for coming along tonight. I'm really excited to learn more about Adz. If you guys have any questions for Adz during the night, please drop them in the chat, and we'll try and bring them up and get Adz to give us a little bit of insight into his life. So you mentioned that you sort of been doing it since uni, and you are full-time now as well?
I am, yeah.
And
I've kind of been full-time since day one. I had a part-time job when I was at uni, but then after that, after a few months, I was kind of full-time basically, and I just knew that I had to put everything into it. There was nothing else really in my life that was pleasant at that time, financially or education wise. It was all just reselling, so I knew I had to do something with it.
And getting in so young, I think that's incredible that at 19 you're able to sort of identify an opportunity for yourself. Because at that age, there's a lot of other things that are going on, and I think to be able to be so clear on what you need to do for yourself is pretty awesome. So,
well, I actually did. I spoke about it on my YouTube channel before. I did selling on eBay from when I was 13. Wow. But I did it for about 2 years, and I used to sell, basically I do wholesale stuff. So I'd sell kids' toys, because obviously I was a kid at that point. And I'd sell them on eBay, and I'd be working them out on a little spreadsheet. Oh, I made 30 pence profit on this, and I made 50 pence profit on this kind of thing. Yeah. And I got the bug for it back then, really. And it all came from a sports day. It was a disability sports day that I went to with school. And they gave us a little goodie bag at the end of the day. And there's a little poncho in there, a disposable rain poncho. And I don't know whether it was my mum who said to me or I said to my mum, but one of us said it. Oh, I could sell these, couldn't I? Or my mum said to me, oh, maybe you could sell these, because I was interested in selling. And, we went away. I went away with my mum's help and cat, because obviously I was 12, 13 at the time, and tried to look at a source where we could maybe buy these from. And I bought them, and I was doing the ponchos. And there was one point I was selling about 6 or 7 a day. And after school, I'd get back from school and I'd pack them up, and I'd be really excited about the day's sales. And I'd only be making 30, 40 pence on each one, but it didn't matter to me. I just loved doing it, And that was the real beginnings. But then obviously at 19, that was more of the professional side of it coming through. I was really starting to be more professional with it then.
That's incredible that at 13 you sort of caught that bug and were able to sort of build to where you are now. It's pretty crazy. At 13, reselling wasn't even close to my brain capacity. So you're well ahead of us. That's awesome, man. You kind of touched on it very briefly there. You said that you went to what you said was like you went to a disability sports day. So probably not a lot of people know that you have cerebral palsy. Yes. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and sort of how you get around that day to day and what that's meant for you?
So I have hemiplegic spastic cerebral palsy down my left side. It was due to a bleed on the brain at childbirth, so it was nothing really I could control. And I had 5 or 6 operations. I can't quite remember, but around that, before I was 10, or around, well, basically there was one operation when I was 10, but all the rest were before that. And I had injections on my leg to try and make it stronger, all the rest of it, Botox injections or something like that. I'm not sure quite what the procedure was. But then I had an Alizarov frame, which was a very big operation, where you get this big cage on your leg with 8 pins going right through the bone.
Wow.
And then what happens is you have to tighten it up every day for about 2 months to bring your foot, because my foot was in that position when I was walking. So I was walking like that on my toe. Wow. So you bring, with this big frame on your leg with the pins through it, you tighten it each day for 2 months and bring it to a right angle. And then after you have the frame off, you can then walk at a right angle. So I had that when I was 10. And essentially now it doesn't really affect me that much. The only thing it's affected me with in the last 4 or 5 years is driving. Obviously with driving, I've had to learn in an automatic. I have to use a lollipop steering wheel ball, because when I was driving, although I tried and I tried and I tried, I couldn't do the wheel with this hand, this left hand, because I've not had any operations on this left hand. I've only had all my operations on my left foot. So this hand is still, as you can see, you can probably see there, it's a little bit off or warped. So I couldn't do the 10-2 position. I was trying. I couldn't do it. And so my driving instructor said, well, let's use this lollipop steering wheel ball. And I use that now. And that obviously means that I can drive and I can get around and all the rest of it. So that's only really what it does in terms of it affects me in my daily life now. But when I was a child, it affected me a lot more. And therefore I had to have those operations with it, really. Yeah. So that's probably a brief kind of look at it, I would say.
Well, I think you're in an amazing mindset, because I've only heard you say it once or twice in the whole every episode that I've watched. So you're pretty inspirational in that sense. You don't let it sort of drag you down. And we're speaking before about how you sort of you've just accepted it as part of you. It doesn't sort of change the way you go about your day. It's just that's just what it is. Like there's no hatred against it or anything like that.
There's kind of one thing that I've said over the last few years. I have a couple of friends, and obviously they've not got disabilities or anything, and I always used to say to them, oh, I wish I didn't have a disability like you, when I was a lot younger. And now I've got to the point where actually I want to have one day, I'd love it if I could have one day where I don't have a disability and I can experience what it feels like. But then after that day, I want to go back to having my disability because I actually genuinely like it. It is integrated with myself now. I mean, physically, it is a part of myself.
Yeah.
So it should be mentally as well. It should be a part of myself mentally. So I think that, that could be a transition of acceptance with it. At first, I was thinking, I want rid of this thing, or I want to explore something other than this thing. But now I only want to briefly explore something other than this thing, just to see what it'd be like, and then come back to it, kind of thing.
Yeah. And Andrew said that the Adz doesn't think of himself in this way, but he's a very brave man, and I completely agree with what he's saying there. I think the mindset of people that can come through challenges is incredible, and it only sets you up for future success, because if you can deal with stuff like that, you can get through anything. So my mum's in the chat. She's saying you sound like a very positive person. Good on you. Zach's saying I see a future in public speaking for you, not for me because I can't speak. And you could be such an inspiration for kids. Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much.
And Chris said, I didn't even know Adz, so props to you. And I think that's kind of why I like to do these sorts of things, because I think it just gives people an understanding of what your life is like, and how things differ from person to person, and how things can sort of change the way you go about things. So if anyone does have any further questions for Adz, drop them in. I have a bunch here, so I'll keep going. So tell us a bit more about your reselling. Do you sort of sell in one category, or do you have that sort of store that's a bit of a general store, or do you have sort of a niche, as they would say?
People who know me know I have an eclectic personality. So imagine my personality in a store. That's what I mean. I've got a little bit of clothing, even though I don't really do clothing. I've got antiques, I've got collectibles, I've got electronics, I've got toys, I've got games, I've got pottery and wooden items, and loads of different things. I've got camera stuff. I've got it's just a bit of everything really, and that's just. I think that I talked about it in a podcast actually one time. I think kind of our stores, in some regard, whether it's a big regard or a small regard, reflect us as people. And I don't know whether you kind of can get with that a little bit or not, whether you kind of can see that, but I kind of see that a little bit.
Yeah, I think definitely, like, especially when you start out and when you're sort of growing your store, you start in places that and then as you grow, you kind of like reach out and try new things, but there's always that core thing that you started from. So
definitely.
Here's a good question. Adz, what is your favorite thing to sell?
Well, we could go down the lazy route, or we could go down the something really, really excites me route. So the lazy route is anything brand new and sealed. I love that. That's so easy to deal with. But something I really, really love to sell, I would say, and I've talked about this a little bit before, but I would say brass. I really do like selling brass and metalware and things like that. I really do enjoy that sort of side of things. And also anything odd that's wooden. So tree items and things like that I enjoy. And also, as I've touched upon before, I like selling Lego. Generally when it's brand new and sealed, but also I don't mind selling Lego minifigures as well. I did go through a period where I was selling quite heavily a lot of kilo bags and stuff like that, but I'm not too into the whole sorting it all, so probably minifigures or sealed. But yeah.
That's cool. Andrew and Tommy are pestering me in the chat, so I better go back to their questions. How honoured does Adz feel to have the greatest co-host in the world, Mr. Money Mental, for Thursday Talks?
Oh, I feel very honoured, Andrew. I love it when you pop in.
And Tommy says, will the toothbrush be making an appearance?
I can't do that on such a professional channel and such a professional live stream.
That's fine. Adz brought UK royalty to the AU. Absolutely. We've got some awesome people in the chat. Cookie's saying, Chris is saying, I agree, Adz, go see my store. Lots of cool stuff because I am cool.
I'm cool.
Oh, that's awesome. So you mentioned that you sort of do pottery and brass and stuff like that. So where did you learn those categories? Like they're pretty, I guess they're sort of a different generation from us. Like I wouldn't have any clue with that sort of stuff. So how did you get to learn that?
I don't really quite know how I got to learn it. I mean, I just thought, oh yeah, I like that. I'll just go into the charity shop, pick it up, or I'll go into the auction. And for me, I don't have a lot of worry with, I mean, I do have a lot of worry because obviously I have anxiety. In terms of when I'm thinking about actually reselling and plunging into new niches and stuff like that, I don't have worry. I don't think to myself, oh, what am I doing? Oh, is it the right thing? Oh, is it this? And that could be to do with the fact that I'm still living with my parents and therefore I don't have as much financial strain on me. So I feel more comfortable in doing that. And then maybe when I move out in the next few years, I might think, oh, actually, I'm going to be a bit more cautious. That could be to do with it. Yeah. But the only thing that I can see in any relation to where I learn about antiques or collectibles is that every Wednesday and every Friday throughout my entire childhood up until probably about 15 or something, I went around my grandparents after school and we'd always watch, and I used to love it, we'd always watch Flog It. I don't know if you know Flog It. It's an antiques collectible show in the UK where people go off and buy antiques and sell them at auction. And we'd watch Bargain Hunt. Like, for example, if it was a day that I'd got off from school, because Bargain Hunt's on at 12 p.m., then we'd watch Bargain Hunt and we'd just love it. And my grandma would always be telling me about different things and talking to me about it. I spent a lot of time with my grandparents when I was younger. And this is why I think a lot of people are very quick to say, oh, you have an old head on your shoulders, because obviously I've assimilated a bit of that knowledge from my grandparents. So I'd say that with antiques and collectibles thing, that's the only circumstance that I can see where I learn anything like that. And again, a bit of confidence.
Yeah, it's amazing what you sort of take in at that age too. Like you're saying that that's what you think it is, but it probably is. You probably engaged in that content that it just became what you know. Some more awesome people are dropping in the chat. We've got Louise. I saw Neville in as well. There was a few more I saw coming in. My mentor was in before. Cool. I don't know what's going on there. Anyway, so in the UK, I kind of wanted to find out what are the difficulties of selling in the UK. So I know that your seasons, like you have a pretty long winter. So does that affect your sourcing, or do you sort of load up in the summer months? And how do you go about sort of stocking up?
Well, I find with stock, it's really dependent on how open you are. So if you're more closed off to the idea of auctions or car boots or whatever it may be, maybe you just do charity shops or op shops where you are, then you're closing yourself off to a lot of opportunity. And that's fine if you can get the stock from just that one location. But if you open yourself up to auctions, charity shops, car boots, flea markets, trade events or whatever, if you can wangle deals with people, I don't know. But if you open yourself up in such a way, you have no worry about getting stock, because I've got auctions on all throughout the winter. I've got indoor car boots on all throughout the winter. I don't need to worry about it. If I don't want to do them because, let's say, I've got enough stock in the lockup or in the spare room, then I just don't do them. I don't worry about them. But if I need the stock, I will just go out there and try a new thing, try and get it in another way. So it's dependent for me personally on how open you are, and that's it really.
I think that's absolutely correct. We're probably a little bit luckier in Australia where we have longer summers, but in Adelaide we have pretty wet winters. So like similar to you in that we look at auctions, we look at indoor stuff where you can still go and make op shops are always open. So I think you just got to expand your horizons a little bit, because I guess we do get sort of stuck in op shops and that's it. But there are so many other options. So that's it's definitely pretty cool. I guess I wanted to ask you, over the years, what has been your best find? Like, is there something that really stands out to you as like an item that you just couldn't believe that you found? Or
I found a what was it? A record player or something. It's on my channel actually. I think the video is literally entitled "My Best Find Ever" or something, which is quite odd. But I found this record player for 90 quid. And yeah, that was like worth 400 quid or something like that, which was absolutely crazy. And it was kind of my best find. But if you think there's two ways of looking at it. There's monetary value. And then there's actually things that you're passionate about. Like, for example, I looked at that and I thought there's money in that. But then I'm thinking it wasn't really something I was passionate about. So there was another item that I consider my best find, but not on monetary value. And that was a Mark's Toys Mary Poppins.
Oh, wow.
And it was really interesting. It was in its box. And you see, the record player, I loved that. I thought it was interesting. But I've never really had that much passion for record players. So it was more just a monetary thing, it's my best find in terms of monetary value. But this Mark's Toys, I was looking at it and it was a little Mary Poppins. It was a sort of a tin plate one and it was in its box. And I thought, that's absolutely brilliant. And it was worth about 70 quid or something. So I don't know what that is for you, maybe $130 or $140, something like that. So, it was worth a little bit of money, but that one is kind of the one that I always think of my favorite find because it was just something that I can get with a little bit more, that I really have a bit more passion for. I do enjoy. It's another thing actually tagged on to the other items that I like selling, vintage toys. I mean, I've not bought many of them in the last few months, but vintage toys is another one that I really enjoy selling, especially that sort of, I don't know, maybe 50s, 60s stuff, not necessarily the 80s, 90s stuff, because obviously that's still vintage, but the 50s, 60s stuff is definitely, cool. I do love selling it.
That's awesome. I'll just answer the quick question from Andrew. No, I have never seen snow. Thrift Feast has asked a question about YouTube, so I will get to that in a sec, but I guess I wanted to talk to you a bit more about your YouTube. So you obviously have a YouTube channel. You have a really great following. What sort of brought you to YouTube and what got you on that journey? What inspired you to start that?
Well, like with the reselling, as I've said, I started properly when I was 19, but I did it when I was 13. It's a similar story with YouTube. I started my reselling channel, but I had 3 or 4 channels before that because I just, again, it's something I'm genuinely as passionate about as reselling. I absolutely love YouTube. I love video production. So I had a few channels before that in 2012, 2013 that weren't very successful. I didn't really know what I was doing. I hadn't a clue really. But that set me up for wanting to do a reselling channel when it came to the time of doing reselling properly. So I did the reselling channel and I got obsessed with trying to better myself in editing and doing things like that. And at first you can go back to my first video, no editing, pretty much no fancy things, terrible lighting, all the rest of it. And now I feel if you watch, let's say the latest video I did on Saturday, there's no comparison. The worlds apart. And it's only because I'm passionate about that. It's the same with reselling. People only do it for so long as I have, let's say. If they're passionate about it, they stop after 6 months or 3 months or 12 months if they're not that passionate about it. So I love doing YouTube and I love editing and I love making a finished video, a finished product that I can be proud of and that I know that my viewers will hopefully enjoy as well. So that's basically it.
That kind of hits that on the head. You said that you sort of like the finished product is the best bit about editing. So,
yeah.
And go ahead.
I would have said for me personally, is just doing funky effects and doing doing wild things. Because I have a tendency to like colors and like big bold things and just weird stuff, doing random weird stuff. So that's another thing. How weird can I get a video? That's another little goal for me.
You do love a green screen. You've put out some pretty interesting effects. So what sort of motivates you to do different stuff? So I guess that the other day when you were talking to Tommy on his channel, there was a part where you were putting your pants on the ground, which was hilarious. But you sort of said that was your entertaining side coming out. So is that what motivates you to do those different things as well?
Well, I find that it's an unconscious intent. And what I mean by that is it comes out of nowhere. As if, let's say, a thought just pops into your head. It's kind of just something that pops up. So, for example, I might gain an interest or a sway onto a particular subject. And if that thought's just kind of popped into my mind and just sprung up, I always kind of go with it and I explore it. Now, many times I'll explore it and I'll think, oh, that topic wasn't for me. Maybe it didn't work out. It's just not really for me. But then other times, that unconscious intent that's popping itself into my mind, it sways me towards something very, very real and very enjoyable. So like with philosophy and psychology, which I won't ramble about because you know very full well I can get on a ramble about that. But yeah, you know, with those two subjects, I genuinely just found an interest and I have to see it through. And I've got God knows how many books down there on my little shelf there. And I've got £1,000 worth of books in my Amazon wish list. I just have to absorb. I have to. I think it's a very human thing. The need to want to do more stuff. The need to kind of explore new avenues and basically just to live, just to explore life. I think that's what it comes down to.
That's very cool. And I guess you kind of, you know, you're not driven by what people on the other side of the screen are wanting. You're sort of presenting yourself in the most natural form. And if people like that, they come along with you. So that's really cool that you're 100% yourself 100% of the time. So
now that is very hard to do. What you first come across self-consciousness. So you're very self-conscious about it. So it takes a lot of kind of effort and practice to be able to do that and not kind of disrupt your own self-worth. But if you can get past that, then you're free to be yourself and 100% natural without any of that stuff going on. So that's what I try. I was very, very weird in high school and I just randomly do stuff. So it's just, it's weird. I can't, in one way I can control it, but then in another way I can't. It just wants to leap out. It's something that my weirdness, my eccentricity wants to leap out. I can't 100% control it.
I think the people that follow you love that part of you. So I think there's no reason to hide that. Zach's got a question. What is your listing process and how many items do you list a day?
Well, I used to have a kind of a set target of about 10 a day, maybe 5 days a week, something like that. And considering, obviously, I don't know whether many people know here, but I do over £10 items, so nothing under a tenner, which is probably about $18, $20 for you, something like that anyway. So I only do that, £10 plus my postage and up, basically. With the odd thing that I might put on auction for under a tenner if I just want to get it gone. But because of that, I thought, right, well, I'll do 10 items a day, and maybe they're £20 items, maybe they're £30 items because it could be £10 and up. But I'll do that. And then maybe I've got £200, £300 worth of value listed every day. And there was a time where I was trying to do that 7 days, and then I went down to 5 days, and then I was kind of experimenting with doing 20 listings a day, and I was experimenting doing 5 listings a day, but obviously 7 days a week. And I've done all sorts of things over the years. There was one time in 2016 where for about 3 months, I just went crazy hard, and I just did 20 listings pretty much every day for about 2 or 3 months. And that really boosted my store. I was on about 400 listings, and then I was on close to 1,000 or something by the end of that year or something. So it's random. It really is random. And with regards to my listing process, I'd say that I generally do it on phone. Well, I've swapped back and forth from computer and phone, and I actually did a video trying to test which is faster to prove to people, which would be the better one to go for. And it turned out when I was doing the video that they were almost identical, the computer and the phone. So essentially, I just do both. I've done a bit on the computer, a bit on the phone, and I don't necessarily put a lot in the description. I try and do plenty of photos. I do try and do pretty good photos these days. In the past, I've not had the best photo set so some of my listings still have poor photos on from ages ago. But nowadays, nowadays I try and improve the photos, and that's what I do. And then I just price it with what I think, because in antiques and collectibles, let's say I'm selling a ceramic or something, it's just make up a price. That's all it is. It's nothing more and nothing less. So
variable than like a pair of jeans or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, if I've got a ceramic item, I look at it and I think, oh, that's nice, I'll go 20 quid on it. I don't think, I've got to check complete and sell, because it might not be on there.
Yeah, it's very random.
There. Yeah.
My mum's asked, how do you find these interesting resellers? We're very lucky that we have a massive, awesome community full of great people and great stories. So that's that's how I found it. Hey, Neville, I'm just going to try and catch up with the chat. Such an amazing view on life. Absolutely. Here's a link to Adz YouTube channel. So if you haven't subscribed to Adz, please head over, leave him a big thumbs up on his videos, give him a subscribe. Puts out some really interesting content, and I'm sure you'll be hooked straight away. I'll sort of scroll down and just make sure we're keeping up with everything. A lot of people saying hello. Here we go. You were talking about finding that record player before. Is that the coolest antique you found, or have you found something?
Well, I wouldn't say that was necessarily an antique, but it's certainly a vintage electronic. I would say it's so hard because I've had so many items at this point that I forget. The one that springs to mind isn't something that's very valuable. Well, there's a bit of value in it, but it was so cool. It was so cool. It was this candlestick made from the teak of HMS Cerebral, which I think was some sort of warship a couple of hundred years ago or something. And as I say, it was a candlestick and it had this little plaque on it. And I just thought it was so cool. That item has come from a ship that was doing battle somewhere. I thought that was incredible. So I've had that. I mean, it's not necessarily a really valuable item, but it's something that's interesting. I've had metal sculptures before that were really, really interesting. £100 sculptures and stuff that are just really, really well made. Some of them which aren't necessarily antique, they're more modern, but they're still really, really interesting items. I've had lovely ceramics before. The thing is though, it's an in and out process with me. I get them in, and then they stay with me for a while. Obviously, with antiques and collectibles, it's a bit of a slower process to sell a lot of these stuff. And then we go, and I forget about them. And I can't retain it. But I have sold quite a few interesting things, antiques and collectibles, some different things. I've sold a few nice bits of glassware and stuff as well. Some decanters and things like that were quite nice. I'm trying to think now. I'm trying to rack my brain, but
that's all right.
They all just go. Honestly.
In one and out the other. Zahir's just dropped in, so thanks for coming along, Zahir. Really appreciate it. Question: which channels did you start watching that first inspired you to start reselling? I know that you mentioned Nick, but was there other channels around that inspired you to get going?
I think at the time, really, I mean, this is exclusively UK because I didn't even know there was US people doing it.
Yeah.
But in the UK, Zahir, Nick, Caroline, Mrs. M, they were free, and then obviously Tom the English Picker was around, who I didn't really watch that much, but I dipped in and out of. Who was it? Joe Reselling for Pennies, although he was known as something else on YouTube back then. I know, a couple of us, but there was only about 7 or 8. Actually, Ben Fitzpatrick, who you may know of. Do you know of Ben?
I haven't come across Ben, no.
No, because he stopped YouTube about a year ago, but he's a brilliant YouTube creator, brilliant reseller. We all want him to come back. So hopefully at some point he'll come back to YouTube, and then you'll be able to see. I mean, you can actually go on his channel and see some of his content, and no doubt you'll absolutely love it. It's brilliant content. But Ben and Fake Rachel. Now, Ben and Fake Rachel came around about 3 weeks or 4 weeks before I started my channel. So there was really only about 6, 7 YouTubers. There might be a couple of others, that I'm forgetting about, but that was about it. So I only kind of focused on maybe Zahir and Nick mainly. And this was before the chat was even a thing. There was only ever the odd live. There wasn't really any lives. It was a different landscape back then. And so it was Z and Nick, and then I got into selling what Nick was selling, just basically copycatting him because I didn't know what to do. And then I slowly branched off and did other things aside from what Nick was doing and other people were doing. And that was it really. So yeah, I think Z and Nick were the two main ones.
If you had to choose two, they're a good two to follow. So
yeah,
nothing wrong with that. Just going to give a quick shout out to Denny for popping in. Awesome chat that we had last week. So thanks for coming in. Here we go. Drew's asked, what do you watch on YouTube outside of the reselling realm?
Oh, well, I'm very young in that regard. I watch things like The Sidemen and things like Willany and who else? I'm Alex and stuff. You know, the young guns of YouTube, basically. The very, very big guys have got, 1 million up to maybe 7 million subscribers. And they're very focused. It's very kind of young laddish, very kind of all balling and doing things and doing crazy stuff and all that sort of stuff. But I also watch smaller channels. So there's a channel I'm really into Doctor Who and things like that, and other little bits of other sci-fi. So I watch a channel called Council of Geeks, and he's brilliant. He's very genuine, and he does reviews on TVs and movie shows and stuff. So I like watching a bit of that. But other than that, it's about it. I mean, obviously the reselling channels, but this is meant to be other than reselling. So yeah, that's probably about it aside from reselling.
Awesome. Question: what is your future plans with the business and life in general? It's a good question.
Well, I'm essentially at the moment I'm thinking I need to be reinvesting for next Q4. I know it seems everyone, when I say this in like October or November of this year, everyone's like, why are you reinvesting for next Q4 now? But it's something that I do. I try and reinvest with the money that I'm making now all throughout Q4 right back into stock for next Q4, so then I can build upon it next year, basically. So that's one thing that I'm doing at the moment, but also actually trying to plan out going to different auctions, because unfortunately about 4 months ago my favorite auction house, which was literally just down the road from about 20 minutes away, 10-15 minutes away, closed down. It went into administration. So it was so annoying. And there are other auction houses within Cheshire, which is my county. You can probably drive end to end in about an hour or something, 45 minutes. I'm not too sure, but around that. So it's not necessarily a really big place. But there's a few other auction houses in Cheshire, one of which I've been to quite often, and the quality just isn't there. And then there's another one, the quality might be there, but I need to check out. And then I think there's one further one that's a more high-end one that might not be quite suited to what I'm looking for, because it's super high-end. It's really, really good stuff. And I don't think I'll have the capital. I don't know whether it's trade prices kind of thing. So the next step for me is trying to find this new auction house where I can really sustain myself, opposed to obviously previously going to this other auction house. So that's another kind of future plan. And in life, I mean, I want to continue. Obviously, I've mentioned previously in this chat, I like philosophy and psychology. I want to continue with my philosophy channel, uploading there when I can, and just genuinely learning about philosophy and psychology. Obviously, I enjoy introspection. So because I enjoy psychology, I enjoy looking inside myself at my own mentality, my own psychology. So I want to continue doing that. I want to try and branch off and do some more things and expand my horizons with hobbies, because I think we all kind of, well, not everyone, it might be a generalization to say all, but a lot of us within reselling either don't get the time to have hobbies, or we feel we close ourselves off a bit from that kind of realm. So I want to try and expand into that, and possibly just even meet more new people outside of reselling in real life. So yeah, I'd say that sums it up pretty nicely.
That's awesome. Question for Adz: could you see yourself ever falling out of love with reselling?
It's a question I've asked myself, if I'm honest, quite a few times, and more recently, even more so. But I think that, let's say, and I've always said on my channel, I might not do reselling forever as a full-time thing. It might be so that I go into a different line of work. But if I do that, I can always see myself at least having a handful of items on eBay, because it was my first love. When I was 13, it was the first thing that I absolutely loved. And I just feel like I can't let that go. So I think even if I was in another field, hopefully I'd make the time for it. Even if I couldn't really make the time, I'd try and make the time and have 10 items, 25 items, 50 items, maybe 100 items tops on eBay, something like that. And so I don't think I'd ever really truly fall out of love with it, but I may stray from it a little bit. I may move away from it naturally a little bit more. And I'm not denying myself that. If that's the way that naturally my life goes, that's the way it goes. But I'll always probably check in on the reselling community. I'll always, be a part of it and do something within that community,
That's awesome. This kind of ties in with that as well. So if you weren't reselling, what jobs would you want to do? What would you want to do apart from reselling?
Well, I've touched upon this on my channel a few times. As someone mentioned, public speaking would be interesting for me. Something I would also like to be a philosophical speaker. So something almost like a philosophical public speaker, which is odd because philosophers, generally when you talk about philosophy, people's eyes glaze over and stuff. And they're not really that interested because it's not really an exciting field. But I think with my kind of weirdness and eccentricity, I could make something like philosophy that's a little bit boring sometimes, a bit more exciting for people to actually listen to. And I don't know whether that's just me being a bit egotistical with it and me saying that I can create something incredible out of this somewhat slightly boring topic for the general population. But I do think that maybe I could bring something to it that then would mean that I could be somewhat of like a philosophical public speaker, talking about things like human emotion and life and death and existence, and just making it a bit more fun. And it goes along with what one of my favorite philosophers did, which is Alan Watts. And he had a similar sort of mentality with it. And I like the mentality that he had. Not to say that I would adopt it completely. There's definitely things I would change. There's definitely ways in which I would put my own stamp on it. But I like what he did. I like his kind of mentality with it. And I think it really does bring philosophy to the kind of mass population, opposed to it being kind of just behind doors, just locked in a room somewhere by some old bearded bloke philosophizing about life. So that would be philosophy or psychology, probably public speaking, things like that, all in that sort of way. They all somewhat tie in together loosely.
I think that's that sort of brings me back to the start of the chat where you said reselling has given you so much confidence. Like the way you're talking now compared to the way that you came into it, like your whole psyche's changed. Like you were struggling with day-to-day life, and now you're like, I want to do public speaking. Like I want to do these things. Like your level of, mental capacity has just like exponentially grown. It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it wouldn't be hard for me. I think I'd still struggle at first with the public speaking, and I accept that. But it would be cool to do it. It would be cool to do it. And if I can get myself in a slightly better place than I am in now, I feel like there's just a little leap. There's just a little leap from where I am now to, being able to really genuinely be able to do those things and comfortably be able to. Because obviously I know I can do those things even now, but I know that I would be slightly uncomfortable doing them inside myself. So if I can get myself to feel a bit more comfortable, I can make that little leap more smoothly. And then obviously I can do those things. It would be interesting.
But the fact you're willing to challenge yourself in that way just shows that your ability to take on those challenges has improved. Do you think YouTube has helped you with that as well? Do you think YouTube's played a part in that?
Yeah, I think the main thing about YouTube, and it's something that's only just sprung up literally right this second, but I kind of realized that actually it's most of the people who have supported me with YouTube and have kind of accepted me for who I am, my eccentricity and all the rest of it, that has allowed me to accept more of that part of myself. So maybe previously I didn't 100% accept it, but now by others kind of getting involved and accepting it a little bit more, it's kind of allowed me to look at it in a new perspective and kind of allowed me to align more with myself and accept it internally within myself. And that's interesting.
By meeting people that are accepting of you, you're able to accept that inequality of yourself as well.
Yeah, but I think it's important not to kind of just have just be leaning on that gratification from other people. I think there's a balance there. It's not necessarily that I'm leaning on that gratification, but it's that I've used that in some way to look internally to then be able to kind of accept myself more. And then it's more of an internal affair rather than a constant need for gratification from others.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very good explanation. I did want to touch on tonight as well that I've seen a bit more of your family around the channel. Your dad was on the other day, and your mum also. So what is their involvement now? Are they sort of more engaged with what you're doing? Are they more excited to be a part of what you're doing, or you just sort of drag them in and they're going to be?
My mum's always been a part of the channel. You know, she's been on vlogs in the past a little bit. My dad's always never really bothered with it. But as soon as I got him on a little bit, he was really starting to be comfortable with it. And as soon as he went on the channel with Tracy, he wants to be involved more now. And it's brilliant because, to tell you the truth, he's never really 100% been behind the reselling. And it's not anything other, really, as I mentioned on Tracy's live when he was with me, other than the idea of this social time. There's a definite lack within my life of social time. And that's kind of, it's brought about by myself, you know, if I'm being honest, but also because I'm a reseller, I so immerse myself in reselling that I don't do anything else. And so it is sort of a product of my own doing. But that's kind of the only area that he kind of has from it. He doesn't particularly like this lack of social time. He doesn't also particularly like the amount of mess, but that's generally, everyone doesn't like that. You know, that's kind of something that we all don't particularly like if we've got boxes piled up everywhere. But I think that he's embracing it more now. And I think that obviously me being able to see that I need more social time because of him being present and him telling me this and understanding that, if I can satisfy that, then obviously my dad's going to be perfectly happy with the reselling 100%, because I'm going to have that social time that he craves for me and he wants for me. And I'm also going to be able to be doing something I love. And that's what he wants for me as well, because after all, he is my dad and he loves me. He wants he wants me to do what I love, but he also sees that there's something lacking in my life. And I think that that is a very natural thing for a father or a mother to pick up on when their child is maybe not quite fulfilling all they could do within their life. They want to naturally progress them to doing that. And that's a very beautiful thing, really, in a way.
I think stuff like this, though, is sort of a form of that socialization as well, because you're talking to like-minded individuals that understand what you're doing. Whereas if you go meet your friends down the pub or whatever, they don't really understand what you're doing. They're kind of interested, but they don't have the understanding of exactly what your day-to-day looks like. So I think there's some form of socialization in YouTube as it is, but I understand what he's saying. Do you see a long-term future in eBay? Is it a sustainable business model? So you did touch on that you're not really concerned if it stays, you know, your full-time job with that, but do you see reselling to be sustainable long-term? Is it something that you think is going to continue to be viable?
I see it sustainable long-term, but what I would want to happen is, obviously, I don't know whether you're aware, because I've not touched upon it in a long time on my channel, but I have been involved with cryptocurrencies for quite a while now. And the whole ethos behind cryptocurrencies is decentralization, which is getting away from a fixed entity or organization that governs something, right? So this decentralization on what's known as a blockchain allows the website to be run by the people, for the people. And it's completely fair because on a blockchain, you have something called smart contracts that are governed by the nodes, the computer nodes that run the blockchain. And it's completely trustworthy. Now, I've forgotten exactly why it is completely trustworthy, but if you Google it, you'll be able to look into it in more detail. But it is like pretty much completely trustworthy. It's done all by computers, all the rest of it. So because it's decentralized, it's not owned by one person or in one place. It means essentially that we get rid of that bias of profiteering, of people wanting to make a profit from it. So then you get into a realm of buying and selling that is peer-to-peer, and that is secure by the whole network because of the network being secure, but that doesn't necessarily have any fees, or if there are fees, they're very minimal because all you would need to pay the fees for are to the people who are maintaining the network. And the people who maintain the network is done by a democratic system, and they don't have complete access to all of the parts of the network. It's different people for different parts. So therefore, no one person can control all of the network at one time. So therefore, if we have this, we have what we could call DeBay, decentralized eBay, peer-to-peer with very minimal fees, with no one authority. We then get more of a, dare I say, utopian version of reselling. Very bad word to use, that, utopian. But we could get a better version of reselling, in my opinion, and therefore it could be sustainable for however long you want it. But if we're constantly living by, let's say, these organizations, we're living at their hands. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing because it works very well, but eBay could go down. And if eBay goes down, then we have to all shift to another platform. And then if that platform goes down, we have to all shift to another one. And we're all at the mercy of higher fees and higher this and higher that and more restrictions like we've seen on Amazon and eBay. So if we get rid of all that, and we have, let's say, this decentralization in the future, maybe 2030 or 2035, something like that, then we can enter into a new era of reselling that is more manageable, more sustainable, more economical for both the sellers and the buyers. And for me personally, that seems the logical future of reselling. I'm not saying it'll be perfect, but it will. That's why I'm hesitant to use the word utopian. But it will be a good natural progression, you know? So for me, that's where it's hit.
I think there's some opportunities in that space going forward, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the future, especially with all these eBay glitches that are going around and stuff like that. So, I had a couple more questions before we head off tonight, but if anyone else has any more for Adz, drop them in. We'll try and sneak them in. I guess I sort of wanted to know, in terms of the UK, is it a pretty good community? Like, is everyone on the same sort of page, and do you go to a lot of meetups and stuff like that, or you sort of, do your own thing and then reach out to the community here and there?
I mean, it's what I've known of a few people who have been on the YouTube scene and have been in the Facebook groups that have caused a little bit of a ruckus, caused a little bit of hostility between people. And there's mainly on Facebook, you get into arguments and all the rest of it, and people start taking sides. And it's the worst thing you can do. Never take sides between people. Oh, God, it's terrible. Well, that's my advice. But, get into these rows and stuff. And that's the hostility that I've seen. But generally, I mean, that's happened maybe, from what I've seen, it might have happened more than this, but, big events of this hostility on Facebook, about 4 or 5 times. And people have been more amicable over the years and kind of got together again and you made a union again, made a friendship again. But on YouTube, really, generally, aside from the trolling and the general stuff that we get, it's a pretty fair, pretty decent ecosystem of people in the UK. There's not really any hostility. I like everyone who I've seen on YouTube in the UK. If I didn't like someone, I'd be like, well, I don't like this person. But genuinely, pretty much all of them I like with 100% accuracy. That's not to say there's maybe little things like I think, I don't particularly like this about someone, but that's like we all have. But when I say I like them to all 100%, I mean that there's no one person who I think, oh my God, they're terrible, they're this, they're that. But that's just obviously personality as well. So what I'm trying to say is I don't have a personality clash against anyone really. And they're all friendly, they're all inviting, they're all just genuinely lovely people. And that's why we kind of get on so well. And that's why we kind of all integrate and merge so well, and we can all just chat with each other so freely. So I'd say that it's brilliant in the UK, really. When we go forward, it might become a little bit more There might be a little bit more hostility there because it grows and it grows, you know, but at the moment it's fine. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. That's what I've seen sort of. I think you guys are on a very similar page with us. Like, unless someone's like really going out of their way to annoy anybody, it's like a pretty friendly community. So
yeah,
really cool. Zach has a question. So he does a lot of hard rubbish pickups, like from sides of the roads and stuff. Is that something that happens in the UK, or is it not really because of the weather? Like, do you get side like rubbish, hard rubbish?
I don't think so. I mean, there's things that turn up at the side of the road, but it's just random bits and bobs. Like you might have there might be a wheel cap or something. What do we call it? No, is it a wheel cap or one? You know, but one of the one of those things anyway. But they end up at the side of the road and stuff. But there's no, I don't think anything to that extent. I don't think anything big like that. So personally, I've not really had any experience with it. So. And also, we can't really do dumpster diving or anything without. You've got to get real permission, and you know, oral consent is okay. But if they turn around, you know, a few days later and say, "Oh, actually, I've changed my mind" or whatever, you can get into a bit of a stick with that. So, really, it's a bit tricky dumpster diving in the UK as well. So, just extending that a bit.
Eloise is saying, love how the weather is our big issue here, Brad. Well, all I hear about is the rubbish weather. So if it's something different, please tell me. But I know that winter's quite tough for you guys because it is, so cold, especially in other parts. But yeah, it's the most pressing matter at hand.
Yeah, weather is something. We're always talking about weather.
Yeah. Well, that's probably in the last sort of, I guess, 6 months where I came across a lot of UK channels. I hear a lot about the weather, so I'm presuming it is the biggest issue at hand.
I don't know why. I mean, I think it's because it's so changeable. If it wasn't so changeable, we wouldn't need to talk about it. But because it's from one day to the next, you can have snow, rain, and then sun all in one day in winter. It's crazy. Or have snow, rain, sun, and wind, and all the rest of it, and you're like, what the hell's going on? So, yeah.
She says, we have at least 3 days of sun a year. That's good, right? Sure. To be fair, we've had like a 37-degree day and then a 14-degree day, one after the other. So,
so do you do Fahrenheit as well over there?
No, we do Celsius.
Oh, you do Celsius. Oh, so 37 and right, okay.
Yeah. VHS Thrifters just popped in. Damo's just popped in. We are very near the end of the chat. So if anyone has any last minute questions, please drop them in. I would like to thank everyone for coming along tonight, especially Adz for sparing some time with us.
Yeah, no problem.
I really appreciate your openness and your honesty. I think it's great to hear from all different parts of the world. And I think, learning about the differences is what I really want to get out of this. So yeah, thanks heaps. I did want to ask as sort of a final question, do you think that the UK reseller community is growing, or has it sort of reached what you think is going to be its capacity, or is it kind of in a growth period still?
I think it's hard to define. I really do. I think that most people would say it's in a growth period, and I would probably be inclined to agree. But I think we would probably get into the top of that, and then it might kind of slant over a little bit more. I've seen a lot of channels over the last 2 years really, pop up loads and loads. And I don't know how many are in the UK now, probably 50 plus. There probably is, honestly. There's a lot of channels out there with only 50 subscribers, 100 subscribers that pop up all the time, and you just don't know they exist. But I definitely know of about 30 channels, definitely 30. So there's probably ones that I don't know about that probably take it up to 50. So it's definitely grown over the last year or two. Whether it's still growing and still going up quite drastically is another matter, and I don't particularly think it is to the extent it may have done a year ago. But you never know. We just have to wait and see. It's something that we can't really define at this moment. It's something that the future just has to tell us, really, and we'll see what to make of it. But it's always nice to have new people on board. As I said, sometimes it can create a bit more hostility. The bigger a group is, naturally, that's what happens. But hopefully the new people that come on board will just, they're just awesome people anyway, like we've had so far. And it'll be okay. There won't be an issue there. But I think we are kind of slowly coming out of that growth period.
Yeah, wow. Louise is saying, "Big well done to Brad keeping ads under control." I don't think anyone's keeping ads under control. He does what ads wants to do. That's awesome.
I can be serious when I want to be.
No, I love your tangents. There's some interesting ones. Rod commented on a bit earlier on actually about your what was it? Not your apes. What are they called? Gorilla dreams. But we won't go into that at the moment.
No. We're at the hour. We can't go into that.
We'll be here for another 6.
Yeah.
Dropped your link in the chat again. So
thank you very much.
Please, if you guys haven't jumped over to Adz channel, head over there, show him some love. We really appreciate all the support we've been getting from the UK. I think Adz has got a upcoming 12-hour. Did you want to plug that a little bit while you're here?
Yeah, on the 21st of November, I've got a 12-hour stream. I'm actually just getting all the names of people who want to actually be involved with it on this little timetable I've got to the left of me here. So potentially we'll have quite a few reselling guests on that 12-hour stream. And it's going to be 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. UK time on the 21st. So that should be pretty cool.
Yeah, we're definitely looking forward to that. We'll definitely lock it in the diary and we'll see you then.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, everyone. We really appreciate you coming in tonight. Thanks for taking time out of your evening to listen to us chat. Thanks for the chat. Going to go watch back from the start. Let's go get the boys to 29. Been a great chat. Awesome interview and such inspiration. Great chat, guys. And don't forget the thumbs up. Great interview.
Yeah, hit the thumbs up.
All right, guys. Thanks for everything. And we'll see you next time on This Is Your Reselling Life.
Bye.
See you guys.